Hello and welcome to our afternoon edition of Newsbreak on Arirang TV. It's 3 p.m. on Wednesday, September 7th here in Seoul. Filling in for Handan this week, I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, President Park Geun-hye is set for rare one-on-one talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in the coming hours. The South Korean leader is in Laos with other regional leaders for this year's ASEAN summit. North Korea is likely to top the bill at Park and Abe's meeting following Pyongyang's recent missile launches that landed in waters near Japan. Our Song Ji-son, who's travelling with the president, files this report from Laos.
On the final day of 2015, ASEAN member nations officially launched the ASEAN community in a bid to strengthen synergy and collaboration in the region. At this year's meeting, South Korea will seek to revive cooperation with the massive economic bloc, a region with a combined GDP of $2.5 trillion and home to 630 million people.
At the ASEAN summit, Seoul will seek to reinforce cooperation with the ASEAN community. And at the ASEAN +3 summit, the 10 ASEAN member countries, plus the leaders of South Korea, Japan and China, will review their achievements over the past year and discuss future cooperation.
President Park will also use the chance to win greater support from the international community to press North Korea for its nuclear and missile provocations. After a summit on Tuesday with U.S. President Barack Obama, where the two leaders vowed to counter North Korean threats with all possible measures, President Park will now discuss the North Korean issue with her Japanese counterpart, Shinzo Abe.
At their second bilateral summit this year, President Park and Prime Minister Abe will center their focus on the North Korean nuclear issue and ways to develop bilateral relations and cooperation.
Following talks with Abe, President Park will have completed a series of bilateral talks with Russia, China, the U.S. and Japan. The leaders will all gather at the East Asia Summit on Thursday to further discuss regional security. Song Ji-son, Arirang News, VNTN.
The UN Security Council has strongly condemned North Korea's recent ballistic missile launches, announcing its unanimous decision after a hastily arranged meeting in New York Tuesday. The Council said the launches were a grave violation of the nation's international obligations and vowed further action if the threats continue. Gonsoa reports.
The members of the Security Council strongly condemned the ballistic missile launches conducted by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on 5 September 2016.
4 hours was all it took for the UN Security Council to unanimously adopt a press statement against North Korea's recent violations, namely its launch on Monday of 3 medium-range ballistic missiles off its east coast. Issued just 11 days after a statement on Pyongyang's recent submarine-launched ballistic missile test, the new statement says all members are deeply concerned about the launches that were carried out in flagrant disregard of its demands. That China, North Korea's only major ally, did not hesitate giving its approval is said to be related to the timing of the provocation.
This launch, which I would note took place while China was hosting the G20 summit, once again shows the DPRK's blatant disregard for its international obligations.
The deputy chief of South Korea's mission to the UN said the international community should send a clear and unequivocal message to North Korea.
If they continue to provoke and violate the international commitment and sanctions, they will face much stronger and insurmountable and significant countermeasures.
The remarks suggest that if North Korea stays on its current path, it could face even tougher punitive measures than the strongest UN sanctions to date, which were imposed on the regime after its 4th nuclear test in January. South Korea has welcomed the statement, saying it shows the UN Security Council's united will to bring about change in North Korea. According to the Foreign Ministry, Seoul will continue its diplomatic efforts for the thorough implementation of UN sanctions on the regime. Gonsoa, Arirang News.
Now, it was the minor opposition People's Party's turn on Wednesday to address Parliament's newly opened regular session. Front and centre in the interim leader's policy address were national security and North Korea issues. Ji Myung-gil has more.
The interim leader of the People's Party, Park Ji-won, demanded that the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD on South Korean soil should be discussed in parliament.
The controversies surrounding THAAD should be brought to the table in the Assembly. The government should submit a motion to Parliament on the stationing of THAAD.
The ruling's Haenuri party has been saying THAAD is a vital tool in countering North Korea's missile and nuclear threats. But the opposition parties have said THAAD would not only be ineffective for national defense, it would hurt relations with China and Russia. The People's Party interim leader also urged President Park Geun-hye to listen more to the opposition parties on the THAAD issue. As for North Korean issues, interim chief Park suggested resuming food aid to North Korea, which he argued would also help South Korea.
I propose sending rice and Jeju tangerines to North Korea. We'll be able to help alleviate the food shortages in the north while improving inter-Korean relations. It could help South Korean farmers, too.
Continued big harvests in South Korea have resulted in falling prices for rice, causing difficulties for farmers. Park argued that South Korea could cut down the surplus by giving away some of the rice, while at the same time encouraging a more peaceful mood on the peninsula. The interim leader also proposed that the Assembly set up a special committee on judicial reform to discuss ways to reform the prosecution after a series of corruption scandals involving former and sitting high-ranking prosecutors. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Well, those are the stories we're following at this hour. Stay tuned for Business Daily. It's coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time. Thank you, as always, for watching. Goodbye.